The digital file finally drops into your portal or lands on your desk. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of pages of service treatment records. Somewhere in there is one line about your lower back from a sick call visit years ago, and that line feels like the whole claim. It is not. The VA reads an isolated sick call visit as a temporary event that resolved the day you walked back to duty. That is not the VA doubting you. The VA employee deciding your claim. The rating specialist runs an audit against Title 38 of the Code of Federal Regulations, the federal law covering veterans' benefits, and against the M21-1 Adjudication Procedures Manual, the VA's internal handbook for working claims. An audit does not respond to story. An audit responds to documented facts, sitting where the rules expect to find them. So the problem is not whether you have your records. You can hold every page and still not know which entries the audit hunts for and which ones your file never captured. By the end of this video, you will know what the regulation asks your records to prove, which documents carry the most weight, and how to hand the file over in a form the rating specialist can use. Start with the rule the whole claim hangs on. Under 38 CFR 3.303, direct service connection stands on 3 pillars: a current diagnosed disability, an in-service injury or event, and a medical nexus connecting the two. Your military medical records are where Pillar 2 lives, which is why Pillar 2 is the reason the rating specialist opens the file. So what does chronicity actually require? Less than the phrase suggests. 38 CFR 3.303b is the continuity provision, and since the Federal Circuit decided Walker versus Shinseki in 2013, 3.303b reaches only the chronic diseases listed in 38 CFR 3.309a. Arthritis is on that list. A knee strain is not. For everything off the list, the path is 38 CFR 3.303d, which allows service connection when the evidence as a whole shows the condition began in service. So take that 2016 knee strain, 3 days of quarters, a bottle of Motrin, no follow-up. That visit is not worthless. It satisfies Pillar 2, the in-service event, and Pillar 2 has to be met no matter what else you bring. What one visit cannot do is answer Pillar 3, the medical link between that day and today, and a 10-year gap before the first civilian appointment is a fact weighed against the rest of the evidence, not a door closing. So the regulation sets the questions. Something has to keep thousands of VA employees answering those questions the same way, and that is the M21-1. Inside it is a chapter called Principles of Reviewing and Weighing Evidence, and that chapter runs every document through 3 tests in order. Competency: is the source qualified to say this? Credibility: is it believable? Weight: how much does it prove? Test 1. Competency is where your own words live. 38 CFR 3.159 splits evidence into 2 kinds: competent medical evidence from someone qualified to diagnose and measure, and competent lay evidence from a person describing what that person saw or felt. A line reading, "Member reports right shoulder pain after physical training," is lay evidence. That line proves a complaint was voiced on that date. It does not diagnose anything. Now the other kind, objective clinical findings, are what a qualified provider measured or imaged. Range of motion in degrees, X-rays, CT scans, MRIs, nerve conduction studies, and formal military profiles. Those entries do not rest on anyone's memory. Written down once, they stay exactly what they were. So does objective always beat subjective? That is where the rule gets misread. Under 38 CFR 3.159, neither category automatically outranks the other, and in Lano versus Brown, the court confirmed a veteran is competent to report what that veteran has personal knowledge of. What moves weight is specificity and repetition. One entry is an episode. The same finding on 4 dates across an enlistment is a pattern, and a pattern is much harder to read as something that healed over a weekend. So now you know what carries weight. The next question is where that weight lives, and this is where reading time gets wasted. Stop working through every page linearly and go straight to the 3 categories that carry the most. The first is occupational and medical profiles, such as DA Form 3349 in the Army, and every branch has its own version. So why does a profile hit so hard? A profile is an official record that a medical condition limited what you were allowed to do in uniform, and it covers a span of time rather than one afternoon. A profile answers the question a single sick call note cannot. This was not something you walked off over a weekend. The second category puts another name on your record. Sick call notes are often written by junior corpsmen or medics, but a referral to an orthopedic surgeon, a podiatrist, physical therapy, or behavioral health means a second provider looked at the same problem, and an X-ray or MRI taken while you were in uniform records structural findings on a date, which does not soften with time. The third category sits at the very end of your service. Your separation physical runs on 2 forms: the Report of Medical History, DD Form 2807-1, and the Report of Medical Examination, DD Form 2808. Together, those forms are your final official health baseline in uniform, which speaks directly to any argument that the condition showed up long after you left. So Pillar 2 is handled. That is only half of what Title 38 does to your claim. The other half is 38 CFR Part 4, the Schedule for Rating Disabilities, organized by Diagnostic Code, which sets the percentage once service connection is granted. Part 4 does not pay for pain by itself. Part 4 pays for measurable functional impairment. So what counts as measurable? Under 38 CFR 4.10 and 4.40, functional loss is evaluated on lost movement, pain on movement, muscle spasm, and loss of power on repetitive use, which means the entries that matter most here carry numbers instead of adjectives. So run it with a real condition. Say your records reflect a diagnosis of lumbar spine strain. You turn to Diagnostic Code 5237 in Part 4 and read how range of motion loss is measured. Forward flexion of the thoracolumbar spine greater than 30 degrees but not greater than 60 meets the 20% level. Flexion limited to 30 degrees or less meets 40%. Those numbers may already be sitting in your file from an appointment years ago. And here's the honest part. Reading your records does not raise your rating. Evidence does. What the reading changes is that you find out which measurements your file already holds and which ones were never taken, while there is still time to do something about it. So here's the audit. Step 1. Group every entry by condition rather than by date. Everything touching the knee in one place. Then start over for the back. Step 2. Strip out the noise. Set aside the one-off visits for colds, vaccinations, and isolated sprains showing no follow-up, no profile, and no imaging. Time spent on weak entries is time not spent on the entries that answer 38 CFR 3.303. Step 3. Highlight every entry carrying objective clinical findings, repeated care, a formal profile, or your separation physical. Then Step 4. Build a medical evidence index listing 4 things for each entry: the date, the facility, the objective finding, and which pillar of 3.303 it satisfies. So why does the index matter more than the highlighting? Because your claim gets worked by a person moving through a long file on a schedule. An index puts your strongest pages in front of that person instead of leaving them on page 300 of an unorganized PDF. And you should not have to build that index by hand. We built you the evidence index. Put in your entries, and it sorts them, marks which pillar of 38 CFR 3.303 each one answers, and flags what is still open. The link is in the description. It's built, it's waiting, it's yours. Use it. Nothing here is a promise of any particular rating. Every claim is different. What we give you is the cleanest way we know to execute. For Guard and Reserve, women veterans, step by step, or benefits news, subscribe to the channel that fits your fight. Sometimes the audit turns up something worse than a missing entry, a wrong date, the wrong knee, another service member's name on your page. There is a formal process for correcting a military medical record, and that is the next episode. Watch that one next. There's gotta be another way, and this is it.